Hello and welcome to episode 96 of the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. Oftentimes, when we do the Formula One focused shows, I am joined by Alex Gak. Today is no exception. Welcome back, Alex. Great to see you.
Yoo-hoo! Hey, Dan, hey. Yeah, good to see you too. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me again. Always a pleasure.
Of
Thank you.
course. Hey, great hat.
Thank you.
We're,
Thank
for
you,
for
sir.
those not watching on the YouTube, it's a Ferrari hat, normally decked out in Red Bull gear, or Max
Yeah,
Verstappen.
yeah, but
But
but yeah,
today,
but yeah,
Ferrari.
it's with Ferrari, and yeah, I just explained for then the reason why I decided to wear this hat today because bingo, the Ferrari strategy finally worked.
That's right. They finally got it together on the strategy. So might as well celebrate, right? It's the small wins,
At least,
I
yeah.
guess.
Give them a little bit. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You're
Yeah,
doing in the right direction.
there you go. I love it. How have you been, man? What have you been up to? What's going on? What's new and notable?
Yeah, when we spoke last time on the pod, there was some races been. So as you know, because I'm living in Austin, so I did have a chance again to visit NASCAR. I know you call them a taxi races and taxi
That's right.
cabs races and stuff. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed again, like as I mentioned last year when I spoke about the NASCAR. I really like how Kota looks like during the spring, and
Hmm.
I think the sure they have. I mean, because again, in October, end of October, it's all dead land,
Yeah.
and spring is just beautiful there. A lot of green grass and refresh, and everything is fresh and new and nice. And yeah, I really enjoyed that time. And actually, last year I was complaining that there were no merchandise ever. This time, I don't know, did they hear? Did they
Of course they
listen to your
did.
podcast or
Yeah.
what?
Of course they did.
But this time it was a lot of both with the merchandise, like with teams and a lot. I mean, I was impressed. And actually, it was pretty busy. I mean, of course, there's not any comparison to the Formula One,
Right.
right? Because where you just squeeze in like on the between the people, but still, or maybe because I came like I learned it like from the last time when I arrived at 8 and the race started at like 3 and there was nothing till then.
Right.
So this time I came a bit earlier. I mean later around like 1 p.m. and the race started in 2:30. So I did like full circle around the track. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And again, of course it was turn one, my favorite spot. And only on NASCAR you can actually can afford to buy the ticket over
Right.
there because in
Yeah.
Formula One, I checked it's like a grand, just $1,000,
Right.
and I think it's on the low level when you can see the fans. So it's the cheapest one for the turn one, and for the NASCAR, is I paid like I think $140 to be in turn one on the upper rows. So yeah, I did enjoy it. But this year race was I wouldn't say boring. Of course, NASCAR is never. I mean, they don't have boring races, but it was like uneventful, let's say, because
Right.
last year it was crazy. It was all the restarts, cautions. This year they had only two cautions, and both of them were because of the stages. When the stage ended, and they started to do it this year. I mean, a lot of change in the position and the leaders, and but yeah, I enjoy it. I like it, so I think it's going to be my habit to go there to see the NASCAR race.
Wow.
And yeah, my son, he's 16 months, so maybe next year I will take him with me just to see
No, enjoy
because
that.
he
Yeah. Me
excited
too.
about cars
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah,
Um,
but yeah,
It's Xfinity, right? It's not the senior series or whatever the hell they're calling it now, but it's the Xfinity series, right? It's like the
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And it's see, I tease NASCAR. I've been to one NASCAR race in my life. It was at Michigan Speedway. I was in no
Hmm.
condition to be there
Hmm.
when I was there, and I was in no condition to be there when I left. But it was okay, right? It was super busy, very, very crowded and everything else, but
Yeah,
it just is not, for whatever reason, that isn't the type of racing that really sticks to me. I would probably enjoy NASCAR on a road course like Coda. I would probably
yeah,
because I like sports car racing, and I think
definitely. Yeah.
especially with the new NASCAR, the top series car looks more like a sports car and everything else. I probably would enjoy watching that. I watched a little bit of Chicago when that was on, not a lot, but I watched a little bit of Chicago when they
Hmm.
raced there last year. So
Hmm.
I probably would enjoy NASCAR on a road course. Though I can tell you, I have two NASCAR races that I would kill to go to. Bristol, number
Oh yeah.
one in that order, Bristol, and then number two would be Talladega. So I would go to either of those places to see NASCAR. But
I would also do the Daytona. I would add it
yeah,
to that race, Daytona 500. That also, and they're gonna do a NASCAR at Indy this year, I think, on the oval.
yes, they're back to the oval this year.
So
Yep, yep,
yeah, that would be also interesting to watch. So,
yeah,
and
yeah.
actually, I think yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed. So that's the updates beside the Formula One,
Yeah, that's
watching
good.
Formula One races. So
I
yeah.
know. So Formula One, four races in on the Formula One calendar, which is unreal to me. I think I have a hard time with it, obviously, because racing starting up to me is spring. Well, spring is just starting to spring in Southeast Michigan. I don't know that you really have a lot of defined seasons in Austin where you're at, but four races already behind us in Formula One. IndyCar, of course, has one official race behind them, and then this exhibition
Right.
or poorly executed exhibition, I guess I could say, but that's for another pod, of course. Did you get a chance to? I don't want to spend a lot of time on other series because this is the Formula One podcast. But did you watch any of the thermal race?
I did not. Sorry
There you
about
have it.
that. I have to
Yeah,
to confess because I mean, you know me, right? So I'm also like the auto sport fan, and I watch
yeah,
every race. I watch in the IndyCar. I'm watching every race. But this one, I did watch St. Petersburg, right? The
yep.
opening race. But this one, no. I mean, and I didn't even want to watch it. First of all, because it was like out of points, right? So
Yep.
they don't actually poise. It's outside of the championship, and then this win $1 million thing. Maybe that's the thing. And then I mean I saw some highlights,
Win a million.
and
That's actually
the track is
500,000. So
right because they
yeah,
split between the driver and
it
the
didn't even
team, right? So
wind up that
500
way. They
plus
they didn't even do that. Like it
plus
changed at
tax.
the end. So who knows? Yeah,
Oh,
whatever.
really?
Yeah, it didn't even come
And
off that
yeah,
way. So, but
and yeah, I saw like a couple of highlights, and so the track for me looked pretty dirty, and
yeah, it
I don't
was
know. I
dusty.
mean, that's why yeah, I would say dusty. Yes, not the
Yeah.
dirty. That's a correct word. But yeah, I'm guilty. I didn't watch it.
Oh well.
I know Paulo won, and I like him. And Scotty Mack, I think he came finished third one, right? Or
Second,
second one?
I thought.
Second,
Yeah,
yeah.
can't
That's
remember. Although
to
it's
my
right here.
favorite
Yeah,
driver. So, but yeah, I didn't watch it. Did you?
I did.
What's your take on it?
I did. I think I think it was poorly executed. Like I didn't really understand the point of it. I don't know what they were trying to do. It's funny because I've heard
Exactly.
podcasts
Yeah.
since, right, where they talked about, well, they're trying to do the glitz and glamour of Formula One, and it's like, no, because you're
Oh,
you're doing
it's so
like
far
the
from glitz and glamour
yeah, yeah,
in the
very far from.
desert.
I mean, the
Yeah.
homes were beautiful. These people were very wealthy. There's no doubt about it, right? And they kept
Mhm.
talking to us about how expensive it was to be a member there and how expensive these homes were there and everything else. But at the end of the day, don't care, right?
Yeah.
Didn't care about any of that. Didn't do it for. And frankly, it isn't the reason why I watch Formula One. It's never been the reason why I watched Formula One. I think that's the drive to survive people, right? That's what I
Same.
keep saying.
Same for me.
I've
Yeah.
been watching Formula One since early '90s, and for me, it was the screaming engines, these high RPMs, and fast, and the corners, like what is it? The old RC cars. I mean, it was just
Right. Yeah.
right. That's what took me into Formula
Same for
One.
me.
Yeah, it
Same
wasn't.
for
It's
me.
not the
Yeah,
glitz
yeah.
because I get a kick out of the grid walk with Martin Brundle and all the celebrities kind of snubbing him and everything, or the ones that do embrace him or whatever. I get a kick out of
Hmm.
that, but if you took that away, I'd be fine, right? Like I'd be just fine
Definitely.
without it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, so talking about Japan, I thought it was a good race overall, which is interesting for me to say. But
I
first,
agree.
before we get into that, I'm struck by the fans. I guess I guess I knew, but I didn't really know, or maybe just not paid attention to the level that I did this year. But obviously, more than 200,000 fans over the course of the weekend. I'm struck by the commitment on the part of these fans
Oh yeah.
with the outfits, right? With the handhelds, with the posters, with the whatever you want to call these things, and that they were bringing in. I mean, full on committed, and it wasn't like, to use a really bad one, it wasn't like going to an IndyCar race today where it's all McLaren gear, right? It's all orange
Yeah,
everywhere you can see. It was everybody. There was fans in the
yeah.
stands with Williams gear, McLaren gear, a lot of Ferrari gear, of course, Mercedes, everybody out there, which I thought was interesting, and just amazing support by the fans, and that just really, really, really struck me. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like all actually drivers, I mean, for sure the half of them, or maybe not even every and each of them, they like to race in Japan because of that. And I think
Hmm.
because like, all the fans, they generally you can split them like into categories. So one they rooting for the teams and another one rooting for the drivers. So like
Right.
one driver who like, working for different teams right during his career, looking for the path and like rooting for them, or like if you're rooting for the team and you root for the drivers who in the
Yeah.
team. In Japan, I think they don't care. They
No.
just they're excited about in general about this Formula One because it
Yes.
seemed like I saw like a couple of them. They were holding this, I don't know, kind of I don't know devices with like all the faces and like each driver.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like there was
Like the
not like
fat
it
heads,
was
but they were on
Hamilton, it
sticks.
was
Yeah.
Verstappen,
Yeah.
right, with the faces. So like they just generally excited about that, and I think even like I know that the Hamilton is super excited about the Japan. He has
Yeah.
all these tattoos. Alonso, he has this samurai tattoo on his back,
Yep.
and like and plus all this Japan racing culture, Honda, and actually
Yes.
Suzuka was built for Honda to test their cars, and they have these factories
Oh,
inside,
is that
right?
right?
And Honda, yeah, 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 and when you say Honda, I mean for sure it's like all this racing pops up,
Yeah.
not the Honda Civic or Honda
Right. Right.
CR-V, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for me, it's just like the memories like of this racing culture, motorcycles, four wheels when they started in Formula One, McLaren, Honda, that legendary cars. So that's all culture around. I think that's what actually makes this place like never in calendar. Like I mean, there is
Yeah.
no such committed or and excited fans as in Japan. They just and then these guys, hey, sorry teacher, I missed the school because I'm in
Right. Right.
Formula
Yeah.
One. It's
Yeah.
just so
Yeah.
cute. And yeah, then that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoy it. And even like compared to Australia, there was like 450,000 people. Here
Right.
was 200,000 people, but still I mean, the atmosphere was just incredible and amazing.
Put it
And yeah,
200,000
all of
people putting
them,
in
they like the rice.
yeah, 200,000 people putting in a 400,000 person effort. They did a great
Yeah,
job.
yeah,
From a race
definitely.
recap perspective, Red Bull, lights out, gone. And that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Um,
Yeah, thank you for
you know,
joining us. Yeah,
yeah, thank you for joining us. But honestly, that continues to be the situation. But I think just behind the Red Bull, I think we had a pretty good race. And I think that part of the reason why we had a pretty good race there is because there was a lot of strategies going on there. And we joke about Ferrari finally
hmm.
getting strategy right. I think they've done a much better job this year than they did last
Oh
season.
yeah,
Um, but up and down the grid, I was surprised at how varying the strategies were. right? And I think it was um, aided, of course, by the long red flag in the very beginning with Ricardo and Albon coming
Right.
together. But Ferrari used strategy, shocking nonetheless, and team orders to ensure the strongest possible finish for the team. I think that was the right thing to do.
Hmm.
They moved Sainz around Leclerc. Sainz was on a different strategy that ended up being obviously the stronger strategy. Leclerc went an absurd amount of time on medium tires from the very beginning. It helped his race. I don't think it hurt his race. It just went to show you that all these varying strategies were still all in play at some point. It just
Well, I
didn't
think he
you know.
he was the only one who did one pit stop. I mean, he and
Right.
Magnussen, but I think it didn't work for Magnussen, but it really worked for him because
Yeah.
he started eighth and finished fourth. So
Right. And
great effort.
and if you remember over the last couple of seasons, Ferrari tire wear has been kind of a weak spot for them. So I think for
Yeah,
sure,
this year they
yeah,
fixed it. Hmm.
yeah, they've got that out. So
It
um, do you? Can I ask you a question though? A little off the script here. So science.
mhm.
So science has a win on merit without a doubt in Australia, and then science picks up this podium finish, third place around Leclerc. You think Ferrari's kind of helping Carlos a little bit in the early stages of this season because they know that they kind of dumped him and they didn't really want to probably, but you had to because it's Lewis Hamilton, and that chance doesn't come up again. But do you think maybe they're? I hate to say engineering the finish because you can't do that in motorsports, but do you think that they're giving a little extra note to Sainz's side of the garage in the early part of this because of what they did to him?
There is points that I would probably want to bring. First of all, no, I don't think the engineering thing. I think science is just keeping beating Leclerc,
Yeah.
and probably I think it's gonna be till the end of this season. Uh, but however, I think maybe it was if like considering your point of view that it's engineering and Ferrari helped him signs to like so Leclerc kind of on the number two in pilot number two in the team, so maybe they prepare
Mhm.
to Leclerc to be on this role when Hamilton will be replacing Sainz.
Right,
So
right, right.
so
Yeah.
Charles would get used to lose, like man, I'm sorry, but we have a driver who is better than you, so
Right.
probably that's one. But yeah, Sainz, he's been great this year. I mean, there was four races, and everywhere he took part of, he was on the podium, and he missed only one because of that surgery he had, right?
Right.
But then he finished. He won the race, and like else I see all these memes. There was like 24 races. For last 24 races, only two people who won the races. It was
Right.
Sainz and Verstappen, actually.
Right.
So
It's absolutely true. And he's
and
the
that's
one out of
one
a
funny
job.
thing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And so definitely it works brilliant for him this season for Sainz. So he'll probably will find a great job
Oh, I
place for
agree.
him for
Yeah.
next year. But yeah, and there's the question about the Leclerc actually. Is he really such a good driver as he was presented to and as
I
media and all this hype was around? So like he's like another magician, like I don't
yeah.
know, and the stuff. I don't know. I think magic is a little bit fading away.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
A
or
little
maybe
bit.
he's
Yeah.
just
I
unlucky.
right. I think he is a little bit unlucky. I think that when Ferrari had this massive tire degradation, I think in the beginning it just means the tires were coming on very quickly. And he was great over one lap, right? So now he just needs to
Yeah.
learn the racecraft and being able to manage the race for 55 laps and being able to do that. Where I think science having been in Toro Rosso and in other junior series, just like Leclerc was, but still I think that helps him kind of hone his racecraft. He was not as successful early like Science was, so now he's kind of doing the traditional ramp up. I would probably tell you. Do I think he's better than Leclerc? on the surface, I think he is, but everybody keeps saying on all the people that supposedly know what the hell they're talking about, I'll keep saying, Leclerc has the higher ceiling. I guess we'll see, right? We'll see when he's next to a 7-time world champion. Speaking of
Right.
7-time world champion, kind of a surprising move by Mercedes. A little different strategy for them after the red flag. It almost felt like they were moving to a one-stop strategy. They put the cars on hard tires, went out there after about 20 laps. Lewis was already calling in, which he loves to do. Lewis was calling in that his
Of
right front
course.
tire was dead, right? But
Yeah.
more surprising to me was Lewis seemingly proactively offering to let George around. Did that surprise you?
Um, yes and no. Yes, because we know Lewis. He's a fighter. He's a 7 times world champion, and people of his kind, they never, just giving up. Not saying like the races or wins,
Yeah.
but even like you play, so you finish, right? But I think like it's what we would discuss like on the previous podcast when the news that the Hamilton will join Ferrari for next year just appeared on the in the news, and as we discussed over there, that probably he will be, first of all, Mercedes will not give them like, and put pressure on him, and then he will understand that yeah, probably there is no point for me like, do something, that will prevent the team to win some points or win. I mean, probably we're not gonna say win races for the Mercedes and the shape they are right now. But yeah, I totally understand him. I mean, he wants to say thank you probably for the team. He has been successful for so many years,
Yeah.
for team who brought him that many championships. I mean, there is no point for him to, and maybe yeah, he started to be proactive and help him because Mercedes is for sure not in the best shape, and I don't know if they will be successful this year, as they at least win the at least one race as they did before. But it surprised me that Hamilton acting actually like, okay, guys, it's just kind of probably thank you season for me. I will help you do wherever I can,
Right.
but he's not fighting for the Mercedes. I think he's like cannot wait to be.
Yeah.
Did you see
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
meme today that on the conference, the press conference after the race, and ask him so Lewis, what do you think? See what the Ferrari is successful and you like in the struggle in the Mercedes. He said, and he just walk away. Say, do you have any other questions? So for sure he
Yeah.
will have this
Yeah.
question
He's going to have
a
that
lot,
question.
but.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
Definitely, yeah, yeah, because especially Ferrari is clear force number two. Again, second force um, after the Red Bull. So yeah, he will see a lot of
Yeah.
Ferrari's
So let's
performance this
let's go
year.
there. So I agree with you. Red Bull by far number one, right? Ferrari, a little early to say by far number two, but number two for sure, right? Solidly number two.
Mhm.
Where would you put three and four? Would you put McLaren ahead of Mercedes or Mercedes and McLaren kind of a toss up? Do you give the edge to McLaren?
Uh, for sure, yeah, I agree. One and two is the Red Bull and the Ferrari, and then for me, I would probably put the McLaren on the third one and the Mercedes on the fourth, even though I'm a bit hesitant about that because I mean McLaren, we saw what they did the last year,
Yeah.
right? So the first half of the season was totally failure, and then they had such a boost, and then last year they finished second and third, and the Suzuka. I mean, it was close by the end of the season. Today, I mean, last race was like in the beginning, so I'm not sure if McLaren we're gonna have that jump again and bring the updates that will help them to
Yeah.
improve. But Mercedes, from other point, I mean, I just have a trust on them because that's the team who won all this championship. Even though Mercedes nowadays is not that Mercedes was 3 years
No.
ago, because
Yeah.
as we know, a lot of engineers left the team and the key figures that helped won Lewis all his titles, left the team, and now actually even, probably even Toto Wolff, who is
Right.
the only guy who left. And actually I've heard that he wanted to actually skip Japan and not to go there, but he went
Right.
there because
He went
he
there to give him his
understands that
energy. Yeah. So he could share his energy.
right, that's in the bad shape. And then he said that nowadays for us, like each race for us is a testing, because like
Right.
that's probably what the shape they have now. So I still believe they might have that championship spirit, and probably they will be able to turn the situation somehow, but probably McLaren gonna
Yeah.
beat them. That's,
So
I mean,
it
how it looks for now.
right. So it's interesting you say that because obviously I shared the notes with you, right? So in my notes, I'm telling you, it's Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, but you might over the course of the season give a slight edge to Mercedes over McLaren, but today I'm not sure. And it's funny. Right before we sat down to do this, I was reviewing the notes and I'm looking at this thinking, man, I can't believe I wrote that. I can't believe I wrote that. Like, do you mean that? And here's why I say that now, right? So, like in the benefit of writing this yesterday, sending it to you, and then reviewing it today before we hit record here. So, and here's why I say that Mercedes is still trying to figure out this car, which means from a development standpoint, they don't know which way to go because they don't know what's really, really wrong
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
Where I think McLaren, 4 races in, understands their car. They understood it at the end of last year. They understand their car today. So they know the development path that they need to take. So even though I say in here in these notes, I'd give a slight edge to Mercedes. I got to tell you, I don't think that that's the case. Um, Years ago in the '90s, Team Penske stumbled a little bit when they were still using their own in-house chassis, when they were still using the Penske chassis, right before they switched to the Renault.
mhm.
I remember reading, it might have been, whatever, what Autosport used to send out these, I think it was Autosport or something. Anyway, they used to say racing is about people, and there are no people left at Penske at that time, right? They had been poached by all these other teams. It's kind of Mercedes' issue, right? Racing is still
Yeah, I was
about
about to
people,
say, yep.
you know,
Hmm.
and a lot of those people have been poached by other teams. A little bit of the
Right.
same at Red Bull, but I think the core group that makes sense, Adrian Newey, I think
Oh, yeah.
remain intact. But the folks that were really driving that 7 times and the world championship sort of bouts, they're gone. So
Yeah,
it's not to say they
that's
can't
true.
find their way, but right, it's going to take them some time.
That's
I
true.
think Total Wolf
Yeah,
today
and
is almost conceded. This season's done for us. Like you said, it's a test season. Hey, Max is championship elect. Let's just move on from it, right? And it's like I can't believe he's talking like that. It's crazy. It's crazy to me.
yeah, especially knowing Total Wolf. And that's why actually I agree. I think they made some like major mistake when building that car from last year when they started all this purposing and stuff, and they still cannot figure out how to fix it. And I'm not sure if I think it will be the same condition up to 2026 for the new regulation.
Yeah,
And that's why I'm not sure why they say that Verstappen will join Mercedes. I don't think that Mercedes now is the team to join, especially for Max. I mean, unless it's just money talks, like, right? But yeah,
even
Mercedes
then, I
nowadays,
don't know. What I,
yeah,
you know, I look, I don't manage my life in these terms, but think about it, dude. What is the difference between 50 million a year and 60 million a year? Other than a little bit bigger tax bill, I can't imagine it's changing your lifestyle. The guy already has a plane. He already has more money than he'll ever be able to spend in a
yeah,
lifetime, right? So if you leave Red Bull for what, 60 or
definitely.
70 million, is it really going to make that difference to your life other than just I guess just
Nah,
bragging rights at that point, because I wouldn't go trundling around in third or fourth if I'm Max Verstappen where you can almost guarantee another championship, right? To for 10 million more or
Oh
15
yeah,
million more or 20 million more? No. This
yeah,
is gonna
yeah.
make a
I
difference
think
to his
like
life.
I mean, for me, that's for sure. He will be champion this year and the
Yeah,
next year. Everything, the changing point, the pivoting point will be 2026 season,
totally agree.
when it's
Yep.
going to be whole new engines,
Yep.
regulation and stuff. Before 2026, Red Bull and Newey, I think even the Red Bull, if they wouldn't have updated that car, last year car will win all the
Yeah.
races for this
Yeah.
year.
It
I
probably
mean
would have made
that's
for a little
for
better season, but like a little more competitive
yeah.
season, but they
Yeah,
still
yeah,
would have
maybe
won.
yeah,
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
competitive,
yeah.
but they would have won for sure. So and yeah, especially like the knowing the genius of the Adrian Newey, because last year
Yeah.
car was perfect, but he was even able to find that
Yeah.
little loopholes, to improve, to make it even better. So
Yeah.
I've heard that Ferrari sent him the check without the
Oh,
number, so
that's
he
funny.
could just wherever because they
That's so
want him
funny.
so badly.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Sure they
And
do.
yeah,
And everybody does. Speaking of
yeah.
blank checks, I got to ask you this. Aston Martin. Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso last year, Fast Freddy. They were hot last year. They were super hot last year. Um,
The
not
first
so
first
much,
half.
right? Not so much right now. Does that surprise you?
Yes and no. Again, I think while Lance Stroll is in the team, the Aston
I
Martin
think that team's going to struggle.
probably
Yeah.
will struggle. Yeah, they need, like, if they wanna win the races, if they want to achieve and improve, they have to have the very strong pilots, the
Yeah.
drivers, and are just one Alonso, he will not be able to carry all team on the back. And in regards to Lance Stroll, he's a good driver, but he's not one of the best one. He's
No.
just I mean, it's easier to say for us he is an average because we won't even start the car for the Formula
Right.
One, right?
Right.
But I mean,
I wouldn't get it to the end of pit
still,
lane, probably. Yeah.
right?
Right.
Even though, yeah, and but yeah, like looking on his results and the performances. No, I think, but we know that it will never happen because he's dead on the
His
on the
dad's name's on the
company,
building.
on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
right. So that's
Yeah.
why probably I think that's the main thing why Aston Martin, they even do spending a lot of money. But yeah, that's probably a reason why, and especially if Alonso will leave, and I think he will leave for next year,
So do I.
they
Yeah.
have to, yeah, they and Lance again, probably of course he will stay in the team.
Sure.
So in this, Aston Martin will have no future,
If you're
unfortunately.
Alonso, where do you go? You go to Mercedes?
Uh, no, I would go. I mean, I've heard that interview that Max said like, "Hey, yeah, we know that the Red Bull. It's we take the drivers from our junior program, and that even like when we took signed the Sergio Perez, it was like not that we usually do. And now when we want to sign 42 years old driver,
Yeah.
it's probably even worse." And I'm like, "Oh, it
Yeah. Yeah.
sounds like somebody is afraid of competition,
Yeah.
you know."
Oh God.
So
Can you
I
imagine
really,
Alonso next to Max?
yeah,
That would definitely
he's a
inject some
beast. I
excitement there.
mean, that
Yeah.
guy,
Ruthless.
I
Yeah.
know, he's a beast.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would really want to see those two together. That probably Red Bull will win all 1-2 for all 25 races.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would go, of course, for the Red Bull. But again, I'm not sure if they will sign him and what's left.
Yeah.
Probably
So
Mercedes only.
yeah. Yeah. So far, I think Perez. Well, I guess if you balance Perez against like Sonoda or Daniel Ricciardo, I think Perez, still has that seat pretty solidly, right? If
Yeah,
you're
he's
looking
doing
at
his job.
Yeah, if you're
Mhm.
looking at it against the backdrop of a Fernando Alonso, you got to ask yourself that. But I think, Alonso comes with Alonso baggage, right? So big
Hmm.
personality. I'm sure he's got to be prickly. You don't you don't get to that level of success by being amiable about everything, right? So, um, I don't know. I don't know that you disrupt the team that much since you're building the program around Max anyway. I think if you're Alonso, I don't know that you'd be that interested in going to Red Bull because it's Max's team. It's always going to be.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
but where do you go? Do you leave Aston for Mercedes? That's kind of a one for one, right? There's no room at Ferrari. Who else is the up and comer? Are you going to go to Audi? You don't, I don't know. I don't. Where do you go?
Yeah, and he's 42, and Audi for sure has been the new team. First year is going to be testing
Right.
year for them, and maybe from 2026 they will start to do something. So he is not in that age, like,
Yeah.
to be like in the full form. So probably only
Right.
Mercedes, but yeah, it's
Here's
not
the
the
thing.
Mercedes the
Yeah.
people want to
So
go.
if you stay with Aston Martin, we just talked about the people thing, right? Honda let all those people go because Honda was leaving Formula One. Now Honda's staying in Formula One and they're going to be the right. And Aston Martin powered by Honda. I don't understand any of that. Aston Martin powered by Honda, but
GP2 engine, remember that
right,
one?
right. You've
So
got
that's why
that.
he
Yeah,
will not
right.
stay there.
You've got that, and then you've got the idea that Honda has to rebuild this whole program from scratch again because they sold all of that that IP to Red Bull. They let go of all those people. What do you do now? So I don't know, man. I don't know, right? It's you
Definitely.
jump from Aston and go to Mercedes and you hope Mercedes figures it out by the end of this year and can put something competitive on track next year. If you're Alonso, Alonso's always been a gambler. Maybe that's the move.
Yeah, I think definitely Mercedes is I think from my point of view is better option than stay in the Aston. Again, I've heard that story about the GP2 engine and
Yeah.
Honda were so pissed on him, so and they
Yes.
like totally like ruined their relationships. So I don't think then that it will be they want to see
Yeah.
Alonso under the Honda brand. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe Mercedes would be a good option for him, like
I think it's the best option. To me, it is. So he gets to go alongside George Russell, Russell George. Um, I I got to ask you about George Russell and Oscar Piastri toward the end of this race. Russell, I kept going on to Racer and to Motorsport to see if Russell had earned himself a penalty for that move. He did not. I think he should have. How did you see that? Was that just racing incident or was that just Russell being Russell? You can't race with Russell. How did you see that?
Yeah, I see that again. I saw that meme today. Remember when from Family Guy when you see like different colors of white, like and then like FI stewards to give the penalty or not. Like if it's a British flag, no penalty, no penalty, no penalty. And then if it's somebody else, it's a penalty. I mean, it's a joke, but I mean, they all given a like haven't let it go, but and for sure it should be. If it would be somebody else on and the
Right.
Russell shoes, it would be a penalty 100%. But of course, yeah, it's a Russell George.
If
Why
it
you
was
gonna do it? It's a racing incident. Yeah.
if it was Alonso that pushed him off track, it definitely would
Oh
have been
yeah,
a
plus 20 seconds, and the 3 points for the next race
right, right,
minus. Yeah,
right,
that's for
right.
sure.
All
But
right,
yeah, that guy, he's just something.
that's funny. Yeah, I get. We'll see, right? I think it'll be juicy to see Alonso in that team because I'm sure George is misguided enough to believe he would then be the lead right on that team, but you'd never be the lead
Yeah,
with Alonso there.
yeah.
Let's go to the other end of the grid here. Who surprises you more, Alpine or Williams?
Oh, they both poor souls. I mean,
I
I feel
know,
so
I
sorry for
know.
both of them. I mean,
Yeah,
at least Alpine didn't crash all his cars like wherever they had.
I know.
The Williams like three crashes for the last two
Big ones.
races. I
Yeah.
mean, and I've heard like that one they actually also that had damaged the chassis, so they have to send it back to Britain and
Yep.
fix it, and then ship back to China for the next race. But I mean, that's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. I feel sorry for them, and probably Williams is the biggest like unlucky
Yeah.
team for the group.
I feel bad for Williams. I feel bad for Williams because it's just bad luck right now, right? It's just ugly luck right now. It's just a rain cloud following them around. The race podcast I was listening to this morning, they're estimating that their crash bill 4 races into this thing is about $2.5 million. So think about that
Oh my
in a
God.
salary cap era, right? In a team that's not one
Right.
of the richest
Yeah.
teams on the grid, that's number two. They have had to send cars back from Australia to England, right? To Japan, back to England, to China, and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Only
That's
shipping cost. Yeah.
right. The shipping cost of a monocoque, I can't imagine what that would be like to ship, right? I'm waiting for a little trinket that I bought off of Etsy that's coming to me from the Netherlands. And I've been waiting for like 2.5 weeks. We're talking a monocoque that you got to get in, out, repaired, sent back to Japan, and then vice versa,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I can only imagine. But the I feel bad for them. I feel like from a development standpoint, this is definitely going to hurt them. I don't know if they really know where their car is. I feel like they do. I actually feel like they have a better grasp on where their car is to date um, than Mercedes does. But
Yeah.
I do feel bad for them. Alpine, I don't. And I want to get your take, but I want to say this first. Alpine, I don't for these reasons. Alpine, even when they were Renault, the only thing I loved about that team was the livery. I thought the black and the yellow and all that was a cool looking car,
Yeah.
right? Beyond
Yeah.
that, they have been half in this effort, I think, when they were Renault, and I still feel like as Alpine, they're still kind of half in this effort anyway. Got rid of Otmar last year, but hey, can you stick around through the rest of the weekend? That's completely bizarre. I don't understand that.
I know.
And now you've got this management team. Whatever it is, the car's overweight, the engine's underpowered, which they knew the engine was underpowered last year. Which means, wouldn't you think, right? Like I'm a soda pop salesman. I don't design cars. I wanted to be an engineer. Well, I shouldn't say. My parents wanted to be an engineer. I had trouble with
Yeah.
chemistry. Why I needed to take chemistry to be an engineer, I still don't understand. But here's the deal. I would have known that weight limitate, right, would have been a priority for the
Oh,
2025
definitely.
car or 2020, yeah, 2024 car, right?
For
So I don't understand why this is still going on. I have a hard time feeling sorry for them. I don't feel sorry for the team. You know who I feel bad for? Ocon and Gasly. Gasly especially. What's your thoughts?
especially Gasly. I just
Yes.
wanted to add that. Yeah. Especially
Yeah.
Gasly. Yeah. I mean, Ocon. I don't know. He never was my favorite driver, but he did a couple of good races. But Gasly, yeah, I think he deserves to be in the better place for sure. And with the Alpine, I think what I've heard and I read some articles that they spend a little money, but they want to have a lot of results. And
Right.
as we all know, it doesn't work that way. So yeah, they want to save money and they want, okay, so this is what we have and you want to. So they cheap probably, I don't
Yeah.
know. But they're expecting to have a lot of results out of that. And they have all this pressure for the people like, hey, you have to deliver. I
Yep.
mean, but yeah. You know what?
Mike.
That's funny. I was thinking about this Williams and stuff because James Walls now is managing the Williams team, so maybe it was his karma for Valtteri. It's James. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that was
Maybe. Yeah.
he's paying his price now.
Yeah.
But
I
no, it's a joke.
yeah.
But yeah, Williams. Yeah, I
That's right.
mean,
I totally forgot
Albon,
about that.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, Albon, he did a lot of effort and he did a great job last year, and
Yeah.
he was really close this year. But yeah, it's just the luck and actually they didn't have the spare car. They have only two. They had only two,
Yeah.
and still they have two. So
And now they're not
that's
going to
why,
have a
of course,
spur
in
until
the
Miami.
oh yeah,
Yeah. So
which
it's
is
another
like
month.
what's
Yeah. So you got
lame.
to hope that China's
Mm.
not another multiple, crash weekend. So,
So they have to tell them, guys, please just drive, just bring
yeah,
it home.
just finish.
No
Yeah, just
racing,
finish. Yeah.
just finish.
So as far as back markers, I think, is it back marker? I don't know, midfield. That's kind of, yeah, yeah. So let me ask you. So bottom half of the midfield, let's call that. So Aston Martin fifth, I think, which is kind of stunning to me. Or is it Red Bull, the second Red Bull team, RB, whatever you want to call them, the Visa team, right? Would you
Racing
put them
Bulls.
ahead of? Yeah. Would you? They're not right now in the standings, but would you put more faith in the Racing Bulls team over Aston Martin, or do you still give the edge to Aston Martin?
Oh no, of course it's Aston Martin,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, Racing Bulls, they are not in that shape. I mean,
Right. Other than
Tsunoda.
the willingness to spend, Fernando Alonso was better than Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, and Yuki Tsunoda combined. Right, combined,
Definitely,
and I think that he
absolutely,
carries that
I
out
agree.
there. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I should give a quick shout out there to Yuki Tsunoda because he was able to score his first ever points at the Japanese Grand Prix, his home Grand Prix, of course. So good job by doing that. We talked a little bit about this, but let me get this since we're on the subject of Tsunoda-san. Honda going to Aston. Could Yuki be in line to replace Alonso if he leaves? Because I always got the sense that Tsunoda was at that second Red Bull team because of the Honda relationship. Could you see that happening?
Well, for sure, he was in the team because of the Honda.
Yeah.
That's 100%. But I mean, moving Tsunoda to, I don't know, maybe if Honda will pay in addition to the Stroll's money, they will have even more. I mean, I can see that happen. Why not? I mean,
Why
the
not?
place
Yeah.
will be vacant anyway. Yeah. So, and definitely, for him, it's gonna be another step to the more stronger team, right? Because the Racing Bulls, even though like the sister team for the Red Bull, it seems like they're very, very far away sisters, probably
Yeah. Yeah.
not even the third cousins.
I know. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it happened, even though I mean they should share. I mean, what's the level of how they share technology and how it works, right? But yeah, compare on like to the for performance racing bulls, right? They are like the only team who had the points from the bottom, right?
Yep.
Only Haas, I think, has less than them. But yeah, definitely for Tsunoda, it would be a
Yeah.
great move, and I would definitely wouldn't be opposed of that.
Yeah. I'm shocked at Ricardo continuing to struggle. Right. Like you said, the car's not as good as
Man,
the senior
yeah,
team. That's fine, but um, I'm surprised that it's not a little bit better, but I'm also surprised that Ricardo continues to struggle. Like I think this is it for him, right? He's definitely not getting Checo's seat, and whether or not he can
definitely,
hang
yeah,
on to
and
the one that he's in now is a good question, right?
yeah, I've heard that they gave him like these two races, um, uh, Japan and China, to improve.
Yeah.
So if there is no signs of improvement, the Liam Lawson will take his seat. And so if it's true, I mean, after that was overturned. They say the team said, no, 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 we didn't say that. It's not true. But we know Helmut Marko, we know his
Yeah.
approach to to the management, right? So he failed uh, Japan, and I think even if he will perform in China, which will be very questionable
Right.
because I mean the last race was 2020, 4 years there were
Right.
no race, and I saw today they did the new asphalt over there, so the track is super green. Half of the peloton they didn't even have a race there, so it's going to be fun race to watch for sure. And I mean, I think Daniel, I mean, I feel so sorry. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but yeah, probably I
Yeah.
would
I
agree
think it's
with
it
you
for
that
him.
that's the end for him. That's it. Even though he's such a talented driver, I mean, probably that's when he left the Red Bull. I mean, I was so shocked. I mean,
Mistake of the
why? I
career.
mean, I
Yep.
understand. Yes,
Yeah.
Max is better than you, but still, man, why are you doing it? And where are you going to Renault and then McLaren? And
Yeah.
he just get lost. I mean, and it's so sad to watch. I mean, he's a cool guy and talented guy, but probably yeah,
Yeah.
that's the end for him. I
Hey,
mean, I'm
yeah,
sad to say that, but yeah.
here's two more for you. So Haas and Sauber. Who do you give the edge to today? Haas team or Sauber?
Of course, Haas, they're doing great. I mean, man, when
Yeah.
there was the season testing, they were the dead last. I mean, they were just doing like the no times, they were
Yep.
just running circles, only like 400 laps or
Yep.
wherever. They did one of the top, the team who made the most laps. And you see, it paid. So actually, there's a question for you. What do you think? Maybe Gunther Steiner was doing something wrong,
Yeah.
managing the Haas. He
Yeah.
was just too busy to be on the drive to survive and
Yep.
be a fun guy, but probably maybe he even didn't take care about the team. And now when we had the guy who really into engineering, like in the technical stuff, and you see they scored the points, like the last race it was two cars in the points, and
Right.
they, I mean, I thought that they're gonna be dead last, but you see.
Yeah.
And Zauber, yeah, for him, it's just for them, it's just to survive this year until they will become Zauber, and it's just like the season to forget that for sure.
Yeah.
Again, you
Um.
see, and this time there was no pit stop, but Gunya Joe, he couldn't finish because again on the technical issues, and
Right.
Bottas,
Yeah.
of course,
Transmission.
poor Bottas.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Haas, I would tell you, I think you're onto something with Gunter Steiner, right? I think that he got a little big, right? Like his brand was getting pretty big and he was
yeah,
feeding the
yeah,
brand. I get that. But I think from a management standpoint, I think that he had been there for so long. I think that after a while, like your management style just doesn't work anymore, right? When with some
yeah,
people, and I think after a while, it just doesn't work anymore. I always say, with what I do every day professionally, I tell a new broom sweeps clean, right? And I think that that's
yep,
that's the case with this change. I think a new broom sweeps clean. This He's going to look at it differently. He definitely comes from a very different mindset. His approach is going to be very different. So maybe that's just the spark that this team needs. As far as continuing the development investment through the balance of the year, I don't have any confidence in that at all. But like you said,
that's right. Yeah,
right, is Sauber just waiting to get to be Audi? I feel like they are. I feel like they're just biding their time until they become Audi, and they're going to try to get to the end of this season just kind of as quickly and as economically as they possibly can. The only thing you can remark about this team, because I don't understand how a modern Formula One team can't figure out how to make wheel nuts, right?
yeah,
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 that aren't completely melting themselves down during the middle of a pit stop. I don't understand that, right? But again, I'm a soda pop salesman. But the only thing remarkable to me is the Sauber paint job. And even then, I still look at the back of it, even during the races, and I feel like they got Floviz on the back of their wings because of this crazy paint job. But honestly, it's the only thing it got going
yeah.
for them. This paint job and these crazy videos that Valtteri Bottas posts. That's what Sauber has going for it right
That
now.
guy, yeah, that guy, he's living his
Right?
best time for sure.
Yes, he
He's
is. Yes,
doing
he
this.
is. Yeah.
He's like promoting his brand, making all
Right.
these pictures with his naked butt and stuff
Right.
like that.
I know. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. Tim bought the calendar. Tim
Oh,
bought the
really?
Botas
Yeah, I've
ass
heard that.
calendar or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, hey, that's all I got. We covered what we needed to cover. I would tell you, I continue to be a Formula One fan. I am a Red Bull fan, but I continue to be a Formula One fan. I watch it. I think this season's better than last. It's a little bit tighter. This Japan was really good. I used to race the Formula One game right on Xbox with like Tim and his son occasionally, and I would race on my own and what have you. China was always one of my favorite
Mhm.
tracks. Like I enjoyed racing that track on my own. Um, so I'm glad to see that back on the calendar because I think the track is pretty cool. New asphalt down, so it's going to be super fast once they get it prepped right. So I'm looking forward to that. But we got a couple of weeks for that. We got a couple of weeks before Formula One goes to round 5, and we got IndyCar going to round 2. But it's all going to take place on April
Yeah.
21st, and then we'll be here right after to talk a little bit about it. So, Alex, thanks for joining me
Right.
today. Formula One, as always.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, excited about that weekend with the IndyCar race and Formula One. I agree, China. It will be for sure super interesting because, as I mentioned, the track is super green. If we will have a little bit of rain, that would be just
It could be anybody's
the
race.
cherry on top.
Yeah. George
I know,
Russell.
but yeah, Russell George. Yeah,
Russell George, George Russell.
but yeah. Then thank you for having me again. It
Of
was
course.
always a pleasure. Yeah, if you want to discuss any other Formula One races, you know my phone number, and I will be always happy to join you.
I
Thank you.
I stayed completely silent on Sunday. I didn't want to text you. I wasn't sure when you were going to watch the race. I watched it when I got up. I got up kind of early, but I didn't text anybody about it because I'm like, just like China, that's going to be in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I'll watch it on major delay,
yeah,
right? I can't stay up
gonna
that.
be.
I'm too old for that. I have to watch it, in the morning when I get up on the DVR. So
Yeah, I should be confessed. I did the same. I mean, I started to watch, and then I saw these red flags. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a long story, and then just fall
yeah,
asleep.
yeah. Usually
But
my wife will catch
yeah,
like the
China.
first few laps of formula, of these late races like this, and I'm like, where was I? And I'd already been sleeping for an hour,
Yeah.
and she's watching these races start. So all right, well, that's it, man. It's
Anyway,
great to
yeah,
see you.
was a
I
great
appreciate it.
guest.
Great hat.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Hey, for everybody, thanks for joining us. Continue to engage on social media. Catch us on our YouTube channel, our comments there, the Twitter handle, Instagram, TikTok, however you want to do it. Catch up with us wherever it makes sense for you. So thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in a couple more weeks. See you, everybody.